try to steal our $400 security deposit by being a dick. Fine, now you can pay us $1,300. So this story takes place like 5 years ago, when my husband and I were broke college students with a young baby. We worked hard to afford our shitty little duplex, $600 a month, and necessities, while trying to finish our degrees to one day get ahead. Our duplex was one in an entire neighborhood, owned by a large company, and managed by a super sketchy married couple who lived on the same street. Before our kid was born, we did the normal excited new parent thing of painting his nursery and decorating, blah blah. Our lease stated we needed permission to paint, which we obtained from the property manager, the husband of the couple. He insisted it would be fine, and, being young and naive, we didn't get it in writing, because he was so chill about it. So we paint, and move on with our lives. A little while later our lease was up, and we had given notice to vacate as we were moving closer to my husband's school. The property manager was understanding, everything was fine, and we scheduled our move out inspection. Prior to this inspection, we specifically asked him for the name of the paint color we needed to use when repainting the nursery. He flat out refused to give it, saying it was unnecessary to paint as we'd been there so long they'd be painting the whole duplex anyway. Okay, cool. Move out inspection day comes and goes. We left the house in better shape than we found it, aside from a small area of torn carpet right along a seam in a doorway. The property manager inspected and said everything looked great and we should get our whole deposit, $400, back minus a few bucks for the torn carpet. Sounds good, boss. Enter a period of weeks where we waited and waited for our deposit, eventually leaving messages upon messages with false promises or no return calls at all. Eventually, over a month later, this culminated in a phone call with the property manager where he said, and I remember this almost verbatim, "I don't know what you're so worried about anyway. It's only like $200 you're getting back." He cited the painted nursery and the huge mess left behind as deductions, and I coldly informed him we'd be going to court then, because we didn't feel we owed for those reasons. The place was spotless when we left, aside from the 6-pack of beer we left him in the fridge for being chill. Not 1 hour later, he called back and miraculously our refund check had just shown up in the mail. Already knowing he was trying to f us, we installed a recording app on my phone, one-party consent state, and went to the office. The check indeed was only for $200 of our deposit, and included no list of what they charged us for. Important detail. We intentionally goaded him into admitting that he had told us not to paint, and that the house looked great on move out, and went on our happy way, revenge plan already unfolding. We didn't cash the check and instead emailed the CEO of the entire property company, copying in the property manager, and detailing the entire process. The CEO sent back a smartass email with a cute little typed up list of deductions, including all the things we were specifically told we wouldn't be on the hook for. A fun detail was that even by his own math they owed us $230 of our deposit. No one really had an answer for why they then tried to issue a check for $200, but whatever. Joke was on him, because we began digging through all the state regulations on security deposits and refunds, hoping to prove that our length of stay meant he couldn't charge us for wear and tear things like carpet cleaning, etc. And in our search, we instead happened upon a statute requiring landlords to return security deposit refunds and an itemized list of deductions within 30 days, or lose the right to withhold for actual damages, and be subject to treble damages, if the landlord is thought to be maliciously withholding the refund. So we typed up a demand letter for our entire security deposit, citing the statute, which he had broken, because we didn't receive any refund offer or itemized list until 6 weekends later. And when he sent a smartass reply, we filed in small claims court for our entire deposit plus treble damages and court costs. Now, I don't know if it's clear at this point, but I can be really fucking petty if I feel like someone is trying to fuck with me. And it was clear this guy made a career out of stealing money from low-income renters who likely could never afford to fight it. I was pissed. I spent the next month before our court date compiling all email correspondence, in which he'd f***ed himself over numerous times by providing written documentation that he exceeded time limits, charged incorrect amounts, etc. I also compiled phone records showing dozens upon dozens of unanswered and unreturned calls to the property manager and detailed accounts I'd made immediately after hanging up of lies from the property manager. I printed out a screenshot from the company's own website detailing the CEO's role as the legal advisor, so I could innocently claim, shouldn't he have known the statutes for these issues? I printed all the relevant statutes and highlighted the important parts. And then I made 3 fucking copies of everything and nicely compiled each in a binder complete with sleeve protectors and page numbers. One for our own reference, one for the asshole property manager and or CEO, we weren't sure who would show up, and one for the judge himself. We also took our handy little recording of the property manager admitting to all the shit he lied about and then pretended to have never said. Needless to say, the judge laughed at how prepared we were, asked if we were law students, and then awarded us treble damages and court fees as well as interest. I will never forget the CEO's face when we looked over and smiled at him. All his arsehole emails and disregard for the law were on the table, and, rather than giving us the original $350 or so we were promised from our deposit, he ended up paying us over $1,300 a month later. It was glorious. Oh shit, edit, I completely forgot until my husband and I were just laughing hysterically about this, but the CEO also filed his response to our suit with a counterclaim for $1,225 for expenses incurred as a result of the actions of plaintiff. He never really said how he got to that number, but in his last email before we sued, he did say, "I hope we can avoid litigation in this matter, but we will engage aggressively if forced to do so. Lol." I wasn't sure if people would love this story as much as I do, but here we are. So I'm including my husband's final email to the CEO before court. Damn, he has a way with words. Business refused to refund $40. The courts order him to pay $230. Story time. Last September, my wife had planned a wonderful Father's Day present for me. Father's Day is in September in Australia. This was to be my first ever Father's Day as a new dad. So to mark the occasion, my wife had arranged to have our daughter's face laser etched onto a dog tag. However, the day before Father's Day, she received the item back and it was, shall we say, subpar. So she came to me and showed me my present early. Now I've had some experience with shitty retailers before and remembered to always come prepared when disputing the quality of any goods and services. So I set my phone to record all audio and approached the retailer. I explained that my wife was upset at the quality of the engraving and rightfully so. I requested a refund and was immediately met with resistance. To begin with, they blamed the quality of the photo we provided. Then when I disputed that, they said that laser engraving doesn't do depth very well and some faces can end up with some shadows missing. End of conversation. They refused a refund and threatened to call security if I didn't leave. The engraver is located in a mall that I also happen to work in. My wife and I left. We straight away left a less than glowing review on their Google page. This was met with accusations of us being unreasonable and threatening violence. Ours was not the only review to which they had this response. They informed us that the matter had been passed on to the local police and that a restraining order had been applied for. We immediately called all local police stations and were delighted to hear that they had never heard of the company in question. After some thought, and me being the stubborn bastard that I am, I decided to forward the matter on to the local small claims tribunal. A month or so passed, and our day in the tribunal had arrived. We honestly weren't expecting the engraver to show up, but lo and behold, there he was, at a civil claims court, in camo pants and a hoodie. We met in a room with a mediator, who told us that it may not be worth chasing a $40 refund from someone who is insured a dickhead. She warned that it may end up costing more than the service to begin with. But, as mentioned before, I'm a stubborn bastard. We pushed forward, opting to go to hearing. This is when we heard some marvelous news from the engraver. Oh, I'm not prepared to go to hearing today. I haven't got any of my evidence. Ding ding ding. We went to a hearing that day, the registrar ruled in our favor and issued a notice of payment. The business was to pay us $40 within 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, no payment. No surprise. During this time, I had been communicating via email with the holder of the engraver's lease, who, in response to my complaint among many others, had decided to terminate the lease, effectively kicking the engraver out of the mall. My man, while the engraver was organizing a new venue for his business, I had filed a motion for a writ for levy of property, meaning the local sheriff was able to enter his premises and relieve him of merchandise to the value of the refund plus court fees, now totaling $139. I informed the engraver, asking him if he would like to settle like a reasonable person or have the sheriff pay him a visit. He was not a reasonable person. Once the writ had been issued, the fee then increased to $225. All I had to do was wait, and wait I did, until March 13th this year, when the sheriff finally attended his new business premises. He was offered an ultimatum: pay the fee or have merchandise repossessed. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. The man paid. He was stubborn for 6+ months over a $40 refund, only to be down $225 plus $5 interest. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, I recently made another video about r/entitled parents sell me your truck for $2. You need to watch that now, because it is insane. You can do that by clicking on this card right here.